Chosen one. Pause right here. Do not rush past this moment. Something happened today that did not look dramatic to the world, but heaven took notice. The atmosphere shifted not because you shouted, not because you announced it, but because you finally did what your spirit has been wrestling with for a long time. You obeyed. You restrained yourself. You chose alignment over impulse. And God smiled. You need to understand this clearly. Today was not ordinary. You crossed an invisible line. The kind of line that separates who you were from who you are becoming. The kind of line that angels recognize even when people don't. This is not coincidence. This is divine acknowledgement. Heaven leaned forward when you made that choice. You have been carrying pressure for a long time. Pressure to respond. Pressure to prove. Pressure to defend yourself, to go back, to speak when silence was harder. And today, you didn't do what your flesh wanted. You did not react the old way. You did not return fire. You did not abandon your values just to feel relief. That restraint was worship. That obedience delighted God more than 1,000 loud declarations. Many think God is pleased only by big visible sacrifices. But what you did today was costly in a deeper way. You denied yourself. You trusted God with the outcome instead of taking control. You let go when everything in you wanted to grab back. That is maturity. That is sonship. That is the mark of someone being prepared for greater authority. You may be wondering, why did it feel so heavy? Why did it feel like everything in me was screaming? Because that decision was a test. And not everyone sees these tests. They happen in private moments, when no one is watching, when there is no applause waiting on the other side. And yet those are the moments that weigh the most in the spirit. Chosen one. Hear this slowly. God is not impressed by what costs you nothing. He is moved by obedience that costs comfort, ego, pride, and timing. What you did today required strength that only comes from being anchored in Him. And heaven calls that strength beautiful. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 51, verse 17. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. O God, you will not despise. That verse is not poetic language. It is a spiritual law. God does not despise surrendered hearts. He draws near to them. You didn't just avoid a mistake today. You aligned with your calling. You proved you are no longer ruled by the same triggers. Something that used to pull you no longer has the same grip. And that is why the resistance has been so intense lately. Darkness resists most when it senses it is losing access. Listen carefully. This is important. What you didn't do today mattered just as much as what you did. You didn't send the message. You didn't return to the habit. You didn't say the words that would have felt good for 5 minutes but cost you peace for 5 months. That discipline is evidence of growth. That restraint is proof that God is shaping you into someone who can be trusted with more. And yes, heaven recorded it, not symbolically, literally. Angels record obedience. Angels observe alignment. They are witnesses to moments like this, moments that never trend, never get shared, but unlock future doors. If you feel an unusual calm mixed with exhaustion right now, that's because a battle just ended. You didn't fight with noise. You fought with obedience. And obedience always wins in the long run. Chosen one. This is why the delay was necessary. This is why things didn't move when you wanted them to. God was watching how you would respond before the breakthrough, not after. And today, you responded differently. Today, you chose the higher road, and heaven calls that wisdom. Before we go any further, If this message resonates with your spirit, take a moment now to like this message. Share it with someone who needs confirmation, leave a brief comment, and subscribe so you stay connected to what God is releasing next. You are not here by accident, and neither is this word. Now, seal this moment, not with emotion, but with intention. At the end of this section, I want you to comment the number 77, not for the algorithm, as a prophetic acknowledgement that you chose alignment today, that you hear what God is saying, that you are ready to move forward without dragging old versions of yourself into the next season. Because what you did today was not small. It delighted God, and it unlocked what comes next. And hear this, chosen one. The peace you feel settling in is not temporary. It is the evidence that heaven approved your decision. What once drained you will no longer have permission to return the same way. You are being stabilized for what is ahead. Carry this moment with you. Do not downplay it. Do not explain it away. This was a turning point, quietly sealed in the spirit. And as you move forward, you will notice doors responding differently because you responded differently. Chosen one, what you did not echo in a room full of people. It did not receive applause. No one stood up to congratulate you. And that is precisely why it carried so much weight in heaven. God has always watched the quiet choices more closely than the loud ones. What you chose in silence revealed who you truly serve when there is no reward attached. You must understand this: heaven measures differently than the world. The world celebrates visibility, speed, reaction, and dominance. God looks for alignment, restraint, humility, and trust. And today you chose something that required faith instead of proof. You chose to believe that God would handle what you released. That decision required more courage than confrontation ever could. There was a moment today when you could have justified yourself, though you could have explained. You could have defended your position and still sounded reasonable. But deep in your spirit, you sensed that God was asking for silence. Not weakness. Silence. Because sometimes silence is not submission to people, it is submission to God. And that kind of submission reshapes your inner world. It retrains your spirit to rest instead of react. It teaches your soul that you do not have to control outcomes to be safe. That is a lesson many never learn, even after years of faith. But you learned it today in real time, under pressure. This is why it felt uncomfortable. Growth always stretches the parts of you that were built to survive rather than trust. The old version of you learned to speak quickly, to act decisively, to protect itself at all costs. That version kept you alive, but it could not carry you into destiny. God is not erasing your past strength. He is refining it. The quiet choice you made today was not passive. It was active faith. It said, God, I believe you are working even when I do nothing. That kind of faith rearranges spiritual authority. It tells heaven that you understand order, and order is the foundation of peace. Scripture says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 32, better a patient person than a warrior, one with self-control than one who takes a city. This verse reveals something most people miss. Self-control is ranked above conquest. Inner mastery is valued more than outer victory. God delights when you conquer yourself. You didn't lose ground, today you gained it, even if it felt like you were stepping back. Spiritually, you stepped forward. God saw you resist the urge to rush. He saw you restrain the impulse to fix. He saw you hold your tongue when words were ready. And He called that wisdom. There are blessings that cannot land in a noisy soul. There are doors that only open for those who know how to wait without growing bitter. God is preparing you for environments where your reaction matters more than your talent, where your character will speak before your words ever do. This is why the choice had to be quiet. If it were public, it could feed pride. If it were celebrated, it could distract you. But because it was hidden, it shaped you without inflating you. That is how God builds leaders who will not collapse under weight. You may not realize it yet, but something loosened today. An internal tension you carried for years began to unwind. Not because circumstances changed, but because you did. When you stop fighting battles God never assigned you, your soul finds rest. The world may never know what you resisted, but heaven knows what you surrendered. And surrender is never wasted. It becomes seed. It becomes foundation. It becomes protection later when storms try to pull you back into old patterns. The Apostle Paul wrote in the letter to the Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." The good you did today was unseen, but unseen good always produces visible harvest. Chosen one, do not replay the moment in your mind wondering if you should have done more. Obedience is not measured by how loud it feels afterward. It is measured by the peace it leaves behind. And peace is what God gives when a choice aligns with His will. You are learning discernment at a deeper level now. Not just right versus wrong, but timing, restraint, and trust. These are the tools of someone being prepared for greater responsibility. God entrusts more to those who can carry silence without resentment. What you chose today trained your spirit to listen before it speaks, to wait before it moves, to trust before it sees. That training will serve you in moments far bigger than this one. Moments where one reaction could change everything. And this is why heaven smiled. Because you are no longer just surviving. You are maturing. You are becoming someone who can stand in authority without needing to prove it. Someone whose quiet obedience speaks louder than any argument ever could. Chosen one. Now we move into the practical, into the place where this message touches real life, real habits, real moments. This is not abstract spirituality. This is about what actually happens inside you on an ordinary day. Because what you resisted was not vague. It had form. It had rhythm. It had authority over you for a season. And that authority has now been challenged. Before freedom becomes stable, it must become conscious. So the first practical direction is this: identify the one that used to rule you. Do not rush past this. Do not spiritualize it away. Ask yourself honestly, what emotion, urge, or pattern used to decide my reactions before I even thought that thing was not just influence, it was governance. For some, it was fear of being rejected, misunderstood, abandoned, or left behind. For others, it was the need for control, fixing everything, managing everyone, never resting. For some, it was anger that rose automatically. For others, it was approval needing validation, needing to be chosen, needing to be seen. It could have been comparison, lust, distraction, self-doubt, or the habit of always explaining yourself. Whatever it was, it spoke first, and for a long time, you listened. This is not about blame. This is about clarity, because nothing loses power until it is named. The second direction is recognizing the exact moment you were no longer ruled. This moment is usually small. It rarely lasts longer than 5 minutes. And that is why most people miss it. It looks like this: the trigger appears and nothing happens. Your body prepares for the old response, but you pause. Your mind offers the familiar script, but you do not follow it. No explosion, no drama, just a quiet interruption. That interruption is authority. Freedom does not always feel exciting. Often, it feels calm, almost neutral. You simply realize this doesn't control me anymore. That realization is evidence of internal shift. Now let's make this actionable. Within the next 24 hours, take 5 intentional minutes, set a timer. Sit still, no music, no scrolling. Ask yourself one question only. What recently lost power over me? Do not force the answer, let it surface. Your body will respond before your thoughts do. You might feel relief, or stillness, or even sadness because some rulers were familiar, even if they were harmful. When it becomes clear, name it. Say it out loud if possible. Naming ends silent agreements. Then say one sentence, calmly. You no longer decide for me. No anger, no emotion. Authority does not need volume. This is not psychology alone. This is spiritual alignment practiced through daily awareness. The ancient words recorded in Romans chapter 6, verse 14. Still echo today, for sin shall no longer be your master, because you are not under the law, but under grace. The issue is mastery. Who governs your reactions? Who decides your next move? What once mastered you has now been exposed, and exposure weakens control. There is another layer you must understand. Sometimes what ruled you was not evil, it was necessary then. Survival mechanisms, emotional walls, hyper-independence, constant readiness for loss. These were kings during hard season, but kings that outlive their season become tyrants. God is not condemning how you survived. He is inviting you to live differently now. In the coming days, the old ruler may attempt a return. Not loudly, subtly, through urgency, through memory, through pressure. This does not mean you failed. It means borders are being tested. Your response is simple pause, breathe, choose differently once. Authority is reinforced through repetition, not perfection, as the prophet Elijah declared in the first book of Kings, chapter 18, verse 21. How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. Wavering ends when rulership is settled. Chosen one, this is why today mattered. You did not just resist a behavior, you shifted governance. And once governance changes, destiny responds. Now, to anchor this moment with intention, leave one short comment, no more than 4 words. Comment, not my ruler. This is not for visibility, This is a declaration. When you write it, you are acknowledging that something no longer has authority over you. You are not claiming perfection. You are declaring a change in leadership. You are no longer reacting. You are governing. And once governance shifts, everything that follows begins to realign. When you comment, not my ruler, you are not rejecting a feeling, you are redefining authority. You are saying that this emotion, habit, or impulse no longer has permission to decide your reactions, timing, or direction. It may still appear, but it no longer commands you. That short sentence is an internal boundary made visible. It means you recognize the trigger, but you no longer submit to it automatically. You are acknowledging awareness. Awareness is the moment power shifts, because what is seen clearly can no longer rule silently. By writing "not my ruler," you are practicing governance. You are choosing alignment over instinct, intention over impulse. This comment marks the moment you step out of reaction and into responsibility for your peace, your future, and your calling. Chosen one, before Jesus ever healed the sick, before crowds followed him, before miracles flowed through his hands, there were 30 hidden years, 30 years of ordinary mornings, 30 years of silence, 30 years where heaven was quiet and Nazareth was small. No sermons recorded, no signs and wonders announced, just work, obedience, submission, and growth where no one was clapping. And yet those 30 years were not delay, they were design. Many forget this truth. Jesus did not rush his calling. He honored preparation. Heaven did not waste a single hidden day. The Son of God himself spent far more time becoming than being seen. That alone reframes how you must understand your own season. You have called this time delay, so God calls it maturity. The world tells you that if nothing visible is happening, nothing important is happening. But Scripture tells a different story. The deepest roots always grow underground. A tree that rises too fast, without deep roots, collapses in the first storm. God is not interested in fast growth if it produces shallow strength. Think of your life like a furnace. Gold is not refined in public. Heat does its most important work in enclosed places. What looks like inactivity from the outside is often intense transformation on the inside. God closes doors not to punish you, but to concentrate you. Jesus lived under authority before he exercised authority. He submitted before he spoke. He waited before he moved. That waiting shaped his discernment, his restraint, his timing. When his public ministry finally began, it lasted only 3 years, but it shook eternity. The lesson is clear: impact is not measured by length, but by readiness. You may be in a season where your days look repetitive. Work, family, responsibilities, silence. You wonder why your gifts are not being used the way you expected, why your prayers feel unanswered, why nothing seems to take off. But heaven is not idle. Heaven is precise. This is the season where God teaches you consistency, faithfulness when no one is watching, integrity when shortcuts are available, peace when recognition is absent. These are not small lessons. These are load-bearing beams for your future. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, verse 52. And Jesus grew in wisdom and stature, and in favor with God and man. Notice the order. Growth came before favor. Maturity before visibility. Chosen one, God delights in this stage. Not because he wants you hidden forever, but because what is formed here determines what can be trusted later. You are being trained to carry weight without losing yourself, to succeed without becoming arrogant, to lead without needing approval. Picture an arrow being pulled back. From the front, it looks like retreat. But the pullback determines how far it will fly. The tension you feel now is not regression, it is alignment. God is setting direction, not denying destiny. Or think of bread in an oven. Remove it too early, and it looks done on the outside but collapses inside. Timing matters. God will not release you half-formed. What he prepares fully. If this message is resonating with your current season, take a moment to like this message. Share it with someone who feels stuck in waiting, and subscribe so you stay connected to what God is revealing next. Sometimes encouragement arrives right on time, not late, not early. You are not behind. You are being seasoned. The discipline you are learning now showing up. Staying steady, choosing character over attention will one day protect you when doors open quickly. Because when visibility comes without grounding, it destroys. God is not delaying you. He is anchoring you. Scripture reminds us in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 11. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Not rushed time, not forced time. His time, chosen one. Stop comparing your hidden season to someone else's highlight reel. Comparison blinds you to your own progress. You are not being overlooked. You are being built. And God delights in builders who stay faithful before they are famous. This is maturity and not delay. This is training, not punishment. This is love expressed through patience. And when your moment comes, when the door opens and the light finds you, you will not be overwhelmed. Because you were shaped in the quiet, strengthened in the unseen, prepared where applause could not distract you. Stay steady, stay faithful. Heaven is smiling at your growth. And one day, when others ask how you stayed grounded while everything accelerated, you will remember this season. You will remember the quiet obedience, the unseen discipline, the days that felt small but were shaping something unshakable inside you. This is where stability was born. Do not rush what God is perfecting. Let the process finish its work. What emerges from this season will not need constant affirmation to stand. It will carry weight naturally because it was formed slowly, intentionally, and under the careful delight of God. Chosen one. There are moments when nothing seems to change on the surface, yet everything shifts behind the veil. Today was one of those moments. While daily life continued, work, conversations, routine, heaven was active, not loudly, not dramatically, but precisely. What people missed, heaven recorded. You must understand this truth clearly. The spiritual realm does not move by opinion or visibility. It moves by alignment. When you made that recent choice, quiet, restrained, costly, you triggered a response not from people, but from heaven. Records were updated. Authority was adjusted. Resistance was reassigned. Many assume angels only move when prayers are loud or situations are extreme. But Scripture shows something different. Angels respond to obedience, especially obedience that happens without witnesses. Heaven values moments where you could have chosen comfort but chose alignment instead. What you did not look heroic, and it looked ordinary. That is why it was powerful. Heaven records patterns, not performances, and recently, your pattern changed. You may have noticed a strange mix of emotions afterward. Relief paired with fatigue, calm paired with seriousness. That is common after a spiritual test ends. When pressure lifts, the body releases what it has been holding. The soul exhales. The spirit recalibrates. This is not imagination. It is transition. The enemy always tries to minimize moments like this, he whispers. That wasn't a big deal. Anyone could have done that. But that lie exists for one reason: to stop you from recognizing progress. Because awareness strengthens authority. Not everyone obeys when it costs them. Not everyone resists when the old pattern calls. Many feel the conviction. Few complete it. That is why heaven took note. Scripture speaks plainly about this reality. The Apostle Paul wrote in the letter to the Hebrews in chapter 6 and verse 10, God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him. This verse is not symbolic. It is structural. God does not forget. Meaning what is done in obedience is preserved until the right moment of release. Your choice became a marker in the spirit. Heaven operates with timing, not haste. Some responses arrive immediately. Others are held until alignment is complete. Rewards are not always material. Sometimes they appear as protection you never realize you needed. Sometimes as delays that quietly save you. Sometimes as peace that remains even when circumstances don't change. Right now, movements are happening that you are not meant to manage or monitor. Conversations you are not invited into. Doors adjusting without your involvement. Resistance quietly stepping back. This is not secrecy, it is mercy. God does not burden you with what he handles himself. This is also why you may feel less urgency to explain yourself lately. Less desire to prove. less tolerance for noise. These are signs of internal authority settling. When rulership changes inside, your appetite changes outside. But hear this carefully, spiritual records often precede earthly responsibility. When something is marked in heaven, preparation follows on earth. That preparation may feel like seriousness, focus, or even narrowing. God is not limiting you. He is refining you. Do not rush this stage. Do not seek confirmation from people who cannot see what has been recorded. Heaven does not announce everything immediately. Some things are sealed until the season requires them. Now, to consciously acknowledge this truth not for validation, but for alignment, I want you to comment a number. Comme 318. This number represents trained ones who were ready when the moment came. It symbolizes preparedness without noise, readiness without attention, obedience without recognition. When you write 318, you are acknowledging that something has been recorded and that you are willing to stay aligned until its purpose unfolds. This is not superstition, it is intentional marking. Awareness strengthens alignment. Alignment sustains favor. Do not overthink it, simply mark it. Chosen one, stay steady. Stay grounded. Stay humble. Heaven has already responded. What comes next will not need to force its way into your life. It will arrive naturally because the record already exists. What people missed, heaven did not, and what heaven records, it never ignores. What you do now is remain faithful to the posture that brought this shift. Do not look for signs to prove it happened. Proof will come later. Right now, your steadiness is the signal. Heaven responds best to consistency, not urgency. Let peace be your confirmation. You may notice fewer emotional highs and lows. That is not boredom, it is stability. When inner authority settles, chaos loses access. This calm is not emptiness, it is structure forming. You are being positioned to carry more without being shaken by less. Guard this season from noise. Not everything needs a reaction. Not everything deserves a response. Silence is no longer avoidance for you, it is wisdom. What once demanded your energy will now fade when it receives none. That is how authority matures. Move forward without announcing what shifted. Let outcomes speak later. Heaven honors those who can carry favor quietly. What has been recorded will surface at the right time, in the right way. Until then, remain aligned. This is how momentum is protected. Chosen one, there are tests that announce themselves and there are tests that arrive disguised as ordinary life. You did not receive a warning before this one. There was no clear sign that said, this is a defining moment. It looked like another day, another decision, another situation you had handled before. And yet, this was a test few ever see because it happens internally, where no one else can interfere or applaud. This test was not about ability, it was about authority. Many are gifted, few are governed. God does not measure readiness by what you can do, but by what no longer controls you. That is why this test did not ask you to perform. It asked you to restrain. It asked you to trust. It asked you to remain aligned when acting would have been easier. You are being watched not by people, but by the spiritual realm. Not with suspicion, but with intention. Because certain levels of authority cannot be granted until self-rule is established. You cannot govern others, influence environments, or steward increase if your inner world is still ruled by impulse. That is why the pressure felt familiar. The scenario looked like something from your past. The same emotional trigger, the same temptation to rush, react, or retreat. This test returned in a familiar form because mastery is proven when the old challenge no longer works. And this time, it didn't. You didn't need to win. You didn't need to be right. You didn't need to be seen. You simply stayed aligned. That was the qualification. Scripture speaks directly to this kind of moment. The ancient words recorded in the letter of James, chapter 1, verse 12. Remain true. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life. Crowns are not given for speed. They are given for endurance. What you passed was not a public exam. It was a private evaluation. And passing it does not make your life easier immediately. It makes your position stronger. Quiet authority is now settling into your spirit. You may not feel powerful. You may feel grounded. That is how real authority feels. This is why certain arguments no longer attract you. Why chaos feels unnecessary. Why you sense a greater cost attached to small compromises. Authority sharpens discernment. It makes you aware of what matters, what doesn't, and what is too expensive to carry forward. Few ever reach this point because many confuse relief with freedom. They think if the pressure goes away, the work is done. But you stayed steady during the pressure. That is what separated you. You did not just escape the test, you completed it. Now your name carries new weight in the spirit. That does not mean recognition is coming immediately. Weight often precedes visibility. In fact, visibility too early can damage weight. God protects those He qualifies by allowing them to remain unnoticed until their strength matches their assignment. This is also why your solitude feels different now. Less lonely, more intentional. Authority is comfortable with quiet. It does not need constant feedback. It does not seek approval. It knows where it stands. You are being trusted with something many ask for, but few can carry influence without ego. Clarity without harshness. Strength without aggression. These are marks of someone who has learned to rule themselves. There will be future moments when you will sense restraint again. Not because you are being held back, but because restraint has become part of your discernment. You will know when to move and when not to. That timing will protect you from unnecessary battles. This test also recalibrated your relationship with time. You no longer feel the same urgency to force outcomes. You understand now that what is built slowly stands longer. That insight alone places you ahead of many. Do not underestimate what has changed. Even if your surroundings look the same, your internal posture has shifted. You are no longer proving yourself. You are positioning yourself. And positioning attracts assignment. The authority you gained here will show up later as favor, clarity, and access. Not all at once, not loudly, but consistently. Because consistency is how authority reveals itself over time. You did not pass this test by striving. You passed it by remaining aligned, and alignment always qualifies you for more. Stay steady, stay attentive. This level is not maintained by effort, but by awareness. And awareness is now one of your strongest assets. What comes next will not demand more striving from you. It will require steadiness. The test refined your posture, not your pace. Move forward without rushing to prove anything. Authority grows strongest when it is carried calmly, without urgency or fear of being overlooked. You may notice that some situations resolve themselves without your involvement. That is not avoidance. It is jurisdiction shifting. What once required your energy no longer needs your attention. This is the fruit of passing a test few ever recognize. Chosen one. There are moments when a season does not end with noise, but with a door quietly unlocking. No announcement, no sudden light, just the subtle sound of something yielding that had been closed for a long time. This is one of those moments. Because of what you did, because of what you did not do, the next season is no longer waiting on you. It is ready. What unlocked this door was not effort, it was alignment. Many think destiny moves when circumstances change. In truth, destiny moves when you change. When your inner posture shifts, the outer world eventually follows. That is why this moment feels calm instead of explosive. You are not stepping into chaos. You are stepping into flow. You are no longer carrying yesterday's urgency into tomorrow. You are not dragging old fears into new rooms. You are arriving lighter not because life is lighter, but because you are governed differently now. This is what it means when heaven prepares to move with you, not just ahead of you. The next season will not announce itself loudly. It will begin subtly. Conversations will feel different. Opportunities will feel less forced. Doors will open without you needing to push. And some doors will close without pain, because you no longer need what's behind them. Scripture gives language to this moment. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 30, "For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This does not mean the assignment is small. It means it fits. What comes next fits who you have become. You may notice that you are no longer attracted to the same ambitions, the same rush, the same validation. That is not loss, it is refinement. God does not take away desire, he redirects it. And redirected desire becomes purpose. Think of a river that has finally found its channel. It does not need to rush. It does not need to spill everywhere. It moves steadily, deeply, powerfully because it is contained. That is you now. No longer scattered, no longer reacting, flowing. This season ahead will reward consistency more than intensity, faithfulness more than performance, presence more than noise. You are being invited into a way of living where fruit grows naturally, not frantically. And here is something important: not everyone will recognize the shift. Some will still see you as who you were. Let them. You are not required to convince anyone of what has changed. Growth does not need witnesses to be real. What matters is that you feel the difference when you wake up, that decisions feel cleaner, that peace lasts longer, that you trust God without needing constant reassurance. These are signs that the lock has turned. If this message has felt like walking with someone through a quiet forest, unrushed, steady, grounded, then you already know what to do next. Not because you were asked, but because something in you wants to remain connected to this path. If it feels right, leave a gentle mark here, perhaps a like, a share with someone who is also walking quietly, or a comment that reflects where you are standing now. Think of it not as interaction, but as leaving a stone on the trail, something that says, "I was here, and this mattered." And if you wish to keep walking with words that honor stillness, growth, and alignment, you may choose to subscribe not out of obligation, but as one chooses to sit by a steady fire rather than wander alone in the cold. There is beauty in choosing community without pressure, in staying connected without being pulled, in returning not because you must, but because it nourishes you. This is how the next season begins, not with striving, not with fear, but with consent. Consent to become who you already are. Consent to move at the speed of peace. Consent to trust that what unlocked will open fully in time. Chosen one, you are not chasing what's next. You are walking into it, and heaven is walking with you. Take a breath here and let this moment settle. You do not need to rush forward to secure what has already been opened. What is meant for you will recognize your pace and meet you without resistance or confusion. Carry this season with gentleness. Protect it from noise, comparison, and unnecessary urgency. What is growing now is still tender, and tenderness is not weakness. It is the sign of something alive and becoming strong. You will look back one day and realize this was the turning, not because everything changed at once, but because you did. Your inner alignment quietly redirected the path ahead without drama or force. So walk on steady and unafraid. Let peace lead. Let clarity follow, and let God complete what He has begun. The story is still unfolding, but now it unfolds with you ready. And when doubt tries to revisit this moment, return to the quiet certainty you feel now. This is not imagination. This is recognition. Something real has shifted, and you are standing inside it with awareness, humility, and readiness for what unfolds next.